Quick disclaimer, this game is really freaking hard and I suck at it, so don't take anything you see in this video as law. This is just my personal opinion. I've been playing a lot of Into Evil recently, so this is a game that came out recently. It is a Dark Souls X Hotline Miami style game. Basically a dungeon crawling looter where you go into the dungeon. You start off with pretty much nothing. There are different classes that have slightly different starting gear, but for the most part, you're not going to start off with a whole lot. I mean, there are classes that start off with a good amount of stuff, but to be honest, the class that I'm playing now and the starting class you'll have access to, they're not going to have a lot. So right now, what I'm playing is the Friar. This is not the starting class. This is one of the later classes that you can find. His whole thing is that he starts with healing spells, right? He starts with a spell called Bolster, where he can trade a pip of stamina for a pip of health. And he additionally has the ability to heal himself and other allies if you happen to be playing multiplayer. Now, I do think this class is pretty decent for multiplayer, but I will say for a solo run, I really don't think that the Friar is who you want to be playing. And you might be thinking to yourself, like, well, CJ, why is that? Wouldn't the Friar just be like the adventurer, but just better because he actually starts with things? You might notice that healing in the game can be a bit scarce, and to that I say, yeah, you're right. Having healing spells is definitely pretty awesome. Unfortunately, they don't make up for his absolutely horrendous debuff that he starts off with to compensate. So here you can see I'm actually getting cooked by the zombie. The reason why I'm playing so sloppy against that zombie is because the undead, they will target anything in this game that is alive, so that's why you saw him kind of switching aggro between me and that other enemy that he was fighting. And I was just trying to get around, not really fight him properly and just get some crits on him because if you don't notice, zombies in this game have an unbelievable amount of health. So I'm going to show you how you should actually be fighting them here. You want to be kiting them back like this, letting them swing, dodging their attack, because if you just run in willy-nilly, like, he's not going to get staggered at all. He's just going to plow through it and deal a bunch of damage to you. If you're not playing the Friar, you're not going to be able to heal it up this early. At least not well. Yeah, this is definitely the way to fight them. But as you can see, it is so painfully slow because they just have an insane amount of health that I really just can't be asked to have done it with the first guy. They do get a bit easier if you have a slashing weapon. Blunt damage is good against like skeletons, for example, but versus zombies, you want to be doing slashing damage. I believe slashing does more damage to them overall, and it can also dismember their limbs. So if you cut off both of their arms, they don't really have a way to fight you at that point. So definitely don't fight them with a mace if you can help it. And you can see here, like, there's a lot of people that think the mace is really OP for that infinite combo that it has. If the enemies happen to have one, they are also just as OP, so watch out for that. Now, I will say my gameplay this run was not super amazing because I had literally just woken up from several days worth of not sleeping the night before, so I did feel really groggy and terrible. Here I decided to arrow this guy just because, just because I can. I do think bows in this game are pretty good, but I do lean towards crossbows. Oh, here, I'm actually gonna change the audio here so that you can hear. You hear that whispering? That whispering means that there's a ghost nearby. Ghosts are very dangerous enemies in this game. I'm gonna resume the normal audio here. Ghosts are really dangerous enemies in this game. What they'll do is they'll attack you and inflict you with a chill debuff, which means that it makes it very hard to run away from them. And on the priest, or the friar rather, who already starts off with a debuff that makes him slower than every other character, it really is just a death sentence if you get hit by them. Especially if there's multiple. Like, you can maybe deal with one, but once they get on you, they are relentless. They are aggressive, and just trust me, you don't want to get chilled. Here I'm just experimenting with some attacks and systems to see if, you know, I can maybe hit through this wall here. I can't, so that's fine. I will say that it's kind of inconsistent, though, because I'm using a mace, and later on in the run, I'm going to find a mace of sparks. Literally just a mace that also happens to inflict the charge debuff. And for some reason, that one can hit through walls. That I'm not too sure what's going on with that. But yeah, if you hear whispering, take that room very, very slowly. Make sure that you have a light source because ghosts become near invisible in the darkness. And I would recommend just trying to take them on one at a time. If you can't, do the same strategy that I employed for that zombie earlier. And kite back, let them attack first, and after they swing, then get your hits in. Here I'm going to run away because I'm feeling overwhelmed, which is another thing that the priest struggles to do. Is because of his slow debuff, he doesn't have a great time running away from things. And you can see enemies in this game are really, really, really relentless sometimes. Like, this guy just pursues me for a while. The other guy gave up, so thankfully I was able to isolate them, which is why I kind of felt overwhelmed in the first place. I didn't want to fight both of them at once. But yeah, here I'm pretty much doing the same strategy, letting him attack first. After I dodge the first attack, then I can go in with my mace. But I'm getting pretty unlucky here, and this guy is getting a lot of damage negated. So I decided to just hit him with Blight. For any enemies in this game that you feasibly can't fight head-on, I recommend having some sort of status effect or debuff to put onto them. Poison is pretty good against an armored target because if they're poisoned, it's going to go directly through their armor. You know, it's not like having armor is going to stop you from taking poison damage. And you will see me fast-forwarding quite a bit or cutting out some clips in this run because the run actually does go for quite a long time. Mainly because I'm the type of player that's super meticulous and I like to explore every inch of the dungeon multiple times over. Sorry if that makes me weird, I just don't like to leave loot behind. I like to make sure that I've gotten all the secrets and stuff. So if there's some parts that are cut out or chopped up or fast-forwarded, at least you know why. Also, I happen to have a really terrible sense of direction, so sometimes it's not even just me backtracking to try to find better loot. A lot of times I'm just an idiot who can't seem to find his way. So yeah, here I'm just looting, debating what I want to take. I think Vigor is really important, like doubly important on a class like the Friar, who he starts off with spells and he needs the extra Vigor to get away from enemies. That's why sometimes you'll see me not use the Bolster spell in like stage 1, for example, because generally speaking, you can get through stage 1 pretty easily. Here I decided to just fast forward because I'm changing which weapons I want to have in which hand, and it gets a little janky, but the character already has a hard time running away from things, dodging, stuff like that, right? So I don't think nerfing your stamina further in exchange for 1 heart, especially when you can heal anyway, like, I just don't think it's worth it this early. Now, on stage 2, where you're fighting enemies that could potentially actually, you know, deal 5 hearts of damage to you very easily, that's when I would consider using the Bolster spell early. And then here is where I win the run. So here I find a spell rod of Blight Bolt. This is a very good spell. I take it, obviously, because it's not a scroll, because scrolls are just one-time use. That's not to say that all scrolls are bad, but I really wouldn't have taken this if it was a scroll of Bright Bolt. But the fact that it's a spell rod, so it's an item that you can hold, you can cast Bright Bolt multiple times with it. It's not going to, like, break or anything. It just means that I've given myself basically permanent access to a debuff, right? Blight in this game is basically just poison. For a lot of fights in this game, especially like bosses or tanky enemies, or again, just anything that you can't fight head-on, you really want to have some sort of status effect to deal with those types of enemies. And this is what I mean by, like, it's kind of inconsistent because my normal mace wasn't able to attack through these like gates, but for some reason my Mace of Sparks can. Anyway, we find the Vitae Spark. There's one of those in every level. If you're playing multiplayer, that's how you would revive a dead teammate. Since we're not playing multiplayer, we just get some stat increases. But I do recommend always finding that, no matter what, if you're within the level. Even if you find the exit and you feel kitted out and you're like, yeah, I can probably fight the boss, definitely still take some time to look for the Vitae Spark. Here I'm just fast forwarding a little bit because this is where I start to get a little lost and I start to, you know, kind of retrace my steps. I do find a Morning Star I decide to replace my mace with. Honestly, I think I was better off with the Mace of Sparks. I don't think the Morning Star is bad, but considering the attack speed of the weapon, you can see it does attack pretty slowly. And it doesn't inflict bleed on the first hit, which I think it would be genuinely like a really, really good weapon if it did. You have to hit successive attacks on the target to trigger the bleed. So I do end up taking it just for the raw damage, because I think against basic enemies it's better to have raw damage. But man, look at how tanky these zombies are. Like, I've hit this guy 4 times for 3 damage. 15. 18. 21. That guy took 21 damage to kill. If you're fighting that guy with a dagger or a short sword, I mean, those guys just suck, man. Well, okay, to be fair, if you're fighting them with that, you're gonna have an easier time because slashing is just better against zombies in general. So yeah, I've pretty much explored most of this dungeon. I am gonna backtrack a little bit here, but I think I end up cutting this out. I pretty much just cut out anything that, like, you guys have already seen at this point. Dagger of Sparks could be nice. I don't take it. I'm not crazy about daggers. Arrow Quiver. I don't take the Arrow Quiver, but what I do is actually pick up my Pendant of Vigor after I've picked up the Arrow Quiver so that I can drop the arrows, right? So if you ever come across an Arrow Quiver, pick it up, drop it. It'll drop all the arrows onto the ground. You can pick them up. Because I still wanted to have the 20 arrows, I just didn't want to take the Arrow Quiver because I prefer my stamina thing. So here I just find another room. All there is money in here. Loot it really quickly and then kind of just get back to whatever I was doing. I don't think I caught footage of it, but I did find a loose stone in the dungeon, and that's kind of what I'm looking for now. Bam, there it is. If you find a loose stone on a wall, go ahead and push it. It's gonna reveal a secret somewhere, and this is what the secrets look like. So you can break a seal. It opens up a hidden path. You're not gonna find this every single run. Sometimes they don't spawn, so just keep that in mind. Don't go through a dungeon 4 or 5 times looking for a loose stone that might not be there. There can be enemies in the secret room, so just keep that in mind. And I find a Crown of Light. Cool. So I no longer need to carry around my lantern. And this fight right here is going to highlight why I think the Friar is the worst character, at least for solo play. Some enemies in this game, like this armored captain, they're just so aggressive. He's outspeeding me in my basic walk, right? Which I'm pretty sure he would do for the other classes as well, but it's just so much harder to kite this guy. Like, if I was trying to shoot him with arrows, like, first off, he's blocking everything with his shield. He's also heavily armored. I go for a melee swing on him, I can't really hit him. And if I ever get close, he's just gonna aggressively chain me with the dagger hit. So here I make a big mistake, actually. He blights, and I notice he drops a heart, and I want to go pick up that heart, so I try dodging and running past them, and I take an incredible amount of damage, right? So this right here is why I actually don't recommend using Bolster on stage 1 for the extra heart pip, because you need the extra stamina pip to kite out really hard enemies, like this in particular. Like, if I had another heart here, it wouldn't really do anything. You need to be able to run from this guy, you need to be able to kite him, you need to be able to space him. because your 1 extra heart is not going to do you any favors against an enemy that is going to get on top of you and just take it away from you in an instant. Right? You want to make sure that this guy doesn't get on top of you in the first place. But he does drop a really nice shield that I think I end up taking here. Yeah, it's a shield that comes enchanted with a spell, so I decided to take it, just an extra range option. I have spoken to the developer of this game a little bit, and he thinks that melee is a totally viable, perfectly good strategy in this game. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like a lot of enemies in this game, like, you have to be a god with parries, and parries are kind of hard to learn in the first place. And some bosses like this one, you can't feasibly melee them, right? Like, just look at what this guy's doing, right? He's spamming range on you. That's not too bad. You know, if you get up in his face, obviously he's not going to range you anymore. He's going to switch to his Death's Poker. Or Fire Poker, whatever it's called. Sorry, I've played a lot of Elden Ring. My recommendation is to actually not move around too much in this fight and just pay attention to the flames in the room, because if you try meleeing him, you're going to end up running across the room when he teleports and stuff and just running into flames. And you can see I'm getting hit by these flames, and they are doing an incredible amount of damage to me. So, space him. Use your ranged options. Another reason I don't really like melee in this fight is because you run up to melee him, he melees you back. If you don't block it, he knocks you back into flames. If you do block it, he knocks you back into flames. All you can really do is parry him at that point, and then he goes flying. And that can send him into flames, and then you need to chase after him. It's just really hard to feasibly melee these, some of these bosses, at least. There are bosses where it's easier. There are enemies in general where it's easier. But I definitely do not recommend trying to melee the Hellfire Priest. Stand in a safe spot. Especially since when he gets low, he's going to summon that giant flame that circles around the edge of the arena. And he basically forces you into the center of the arena. Yeah, definitely just play by his rules, right? Here I fast forward the safe room because nothing exciting is really going on here. I am playing the Friar, but I decided to take a bunch of healing potions anyway, because let's be real, in a boss fight, you're not really going to be getting the chance to spam your heal spell. Now, if you don't know, you can actually tap the heal spell instead of pressing and holding it. What that's going to do is it's going to be a near instant heal, but it's only going to heal you for 1 heart. So it's good if you took some chip damage and you just need to get a quick burst of healing in. But if you're playing in a team, generally speaking, you're going to want to charge it so that you can heal yourself and your allies. But in a boss fight, don't expect to get your full channel heal off ever, right? Especially in a group, I don't recommend casting Bolster outside of boss fights because you need your stamina to actually perform the healing spell channel, and the more stamina you have, the more that you can heal your allies for, right? Because it does have a pretty lengthy cooldown. More zombies. I did pick up a perk that summons skeletons. I decided to take it because the Friar especially needs a way to like self-peel, because if you can't really get away from things, then your next best option is getting the enemies to fight other things, right? I found out that skeletons deal slashing damage. Look, he's dismembering that zombie. It's pretty awesome. You will see me misclick my Firebolt spell quite a bit when I try to use like my heal or vice versa. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. I don't lose a run because of it. If you want to practice your parries, that enemy that I just killed right there, they don't actually deal damage to you. The small prisoners with the chained spiked collars, they won't damage you. They'll just knock you around a little bit. If you want to practice your parries, do it in a room that isn't filled with spikes, and just let them kind of toss you around a little bit. There you can see the skeleton is actually hard focus on that prisoner that he can't reach, because undead in this game have just a seething hatred for anything that's alive. Here I try not to get too overzealous. Let them attack you first. You don't want these guys to hit you if they come in pairs, because, again, you can't run away from them, and now they're both inflicting chill on you. Like, it just becomes so hard to win. That enemy was like my biggest wall for a while. I lost like 5 or 6 runs in a row to that specific enemy combination. Just 2 of those ghosts that inflict chill on you. They're pretty freaking bad if they get on top of you. So, again, let them swing. After they swing, go in for a little bit of damage. Play slow, kite it out. Statuses don't really affect them. They're just ghosts. They're immune to bleeding. They're immune to, you know, being poisoned, stuff like that. So play by their rules. Take it slow. I know you can see I'm using a Morning Star, which deals blunt damage, and I absolutely just rip apart that skeleton. Kind of just looking for loot here. Not worried about that enemy because my skeleton is going to deal with him. Now, I do have ranged options, but if all you have is magic, I do still recommend picking up arrows and stuff, unless your magic comes back really, really, really fast. I think having multiple ranged options, if your main ranged option is a super long cooldown, is also really nice. I generally do prefer crossbows, but depending on the modifier that the bow has, I could consider taking a bow over a crossbow. You can find bows, for example, that maybe they shine, you need a light source. You could find a bow that magically creates arrows when you run out of arrows yourself. It really depends on the affixes that it can get, whether or not you should be taking it, right? And honestly, I think that's the most fun way to play the game, is to play with what the game actually gives you. I think just trying to stick to the same thing over and over and over, not the most fun experience, especially considering it's like a looter. So we're kind of just looping around a little bit, looking for things to loot. I backtrack into some rooms that I've already been. And I think I'm realizing that the only way to go here is up, so this is another thing you really have to watch out for. So in Stage 2, you can actually get Stage 1 bosses as basic enemies. Now, in my opinion, Hellfire Priest, especially if he's by himself, not the worst enemy that you could have gotten. In my honest opinion, getting the Cannibal is worse. Or I guess he's called the Priest of Flesh. Priest of Bone is probably the worst one that you could get as a basic enemy. Because if he's by himself, he's not going to be by himself for very long, right? And you can kind of see here why I don't ever recommend running up to melee this guy. The fire that spins around him, like, it rotates around him pretty freaking fast, right? And again, when you get close to him, he's not just going to sit there and take it. He's going to get up in your face and start poking you with his Hellfire Poker, right? Play by his rules. He has a giant rotating flame around him. Don't melee him, right? You can find keys on the wall. Sometimes they'll also drop from the armored paladins that come with an Amulet of Light. And my rule for going through these dungeons is don't necessarily loot every single room if you don't have to. Because there's a lot of rooms that will just have literally nothing in them, or they'll just have like a brutal enemy that can end your run. What I would recommend is going through 95% of the rooms and looking for chests, specifically locked chests, and opening all of those up. If you feel like you've looted everything, if you feel like your build is definitely strong enough to kill the stage boss, and you've opened every chest, you've gotten your Vitae Flame that gives you a stat increase. It can give you a heart, or it can give you a stamina pip. And there's really no reason to stay. You might as well just leave. Because there are some really, really insane run-ending enemies in this game that the more that you can avoid fighting them, the better. So here, there's two of them. I don't really want to take a bunch of free damage. What I do is I actually charge up the Firebolt spell here. Because when you charge it, it pierces. So that's pretty nice, right? Can be useful in some situations. There, the skeleton dismembers this guy's head, and for some reason, he can still see me. I don't really understand how that works. I feel like that's not how that should work, but whatever. Gonna heal myself. It looks like I'm also healing my summon, which is pretty interesting. I feel like if you try healing a skeleton or just an undead enemy in general, it should probably deal damage to them. But, I mean, now we're getting into some, like, really... you know, like, what's the enemy's name? The Royal Revenant from Elden Ring. If you cast heal on him, he takes, like, half his health and damage or some crazy Flame Pattern Door. Okay, so now we know that the boss that we're going to be fighting is the Hellfire Demon. I think I fought every boss in this game once, at least. Except for the Demon of Bones. So we don't know, every Stage 1 boss has a Stage 2 variant. This is the Hellfire Priest's Stage 2 variant. So we know that it's going to be a fairly similar fight to the first one. Just off of the fact that, like, he's going to be burning me, he's going to be throwing ranged, like, fireballs at me and stuff. So I had a pretty okay build for dealing with him in Stage 1. I'm not feeling too bad about dealing with him in Stage 2. I actually haven't even encountered the Priest of... or rather, the Demon of Bone yet. Just haven't found him. I know he's in the game, but yeah, I just haven't found him. These mosquito enemies, they really suck, man. While you're bleeding, they not only deal damage to your health directly, they're also dealing damage to your stamina, and you can't regain your stamina while you're bleeding. Probably the worst debuff that you can get, outside of maybe chill. Because getting your movement limited in a game where you can very easily just get jumped on and you can't really do anything when enemies get on top of you in this game, except for run away. Yeah. Pick up some boots there that quiet my footsteps. Not the most useful thing, because I literally am wearing a crown that just tells everyone, hey, I'm here. So yeah, I'm not going to be doing a lot of sneaking, but there's also no reason not to pick it up, I guess. There are some enemies that can't see you with their eyes, because they might be blind, for example, but they might be able to hear you instead. It could be good against those enemies, so if you see something like that, even if it seems useless, just pick it up. It's better than whatever you started with, right? Assuming the thing that you started with is an item that has literally no effect. Now I've got my little undead crew of gooners. Feeling pretty good. Gonna kill these rats. These rats can actually turn into human skeletons, by the way. I don't know how that works, but I find it pretty funny. Another Hellfire Priest. So this right here, you're going to see why I actually prefer to get this guy as a Stage 2 enemy rather than anyone else. Because if you have decent ranged options, you can kind of just do this at him and just never get close to him. Like you saw in that other room what happens if you try to melee him. It can get ugly pretty quick, especially if there's other enemies in there. But if he's by himself, you can kind of just like keep him at a distance, throw your own range at him. And yeah, he's not too tough. So we deal with that situation fairly easily. We find the Vitae Flame. This is what we came here for. If you ever need to see how many keys you have on you, press and hold the interact button, the same button that you use to pick up items. It'll show your whole stats, spells that are affecting you, things in your pockets, what weapons you have equipped, and also if you're carrying any keys on you. You'll see me do it a few times in this run. But my build is feeling pretty good right now. There's not a lot that I would switch it out for. In fact, I think this is pretty much the build that I take to the next stage. So if you're able to hear me drinking there. Feeling a little bit parched since I'm commentating over this after the run, obviously. Yeah, we're kind of just going from room to room, exploring. The reason I decided to commentate over this is because I didn't really talk during the run, because the game is pretty brutal and it takes a lot of focus, and I don't really want to be just talking about random stuff, trying to be educational in the middle of the run. I would rather just do it, and then afterwards just kind of give my thought process when I'm not as stressed out. I debate whether or not I want to take this. Honestly, I probably should have. I don't really end up using my shield that much against the upcoming bosses. I think that would have been a little bit of a better option to take. The more range that you can have for the final boss of this run, the better. Spell Rod of Inoculate, not very useful. It makes it so that Blight doesn't deal damage to you. It'd be nice if it didn't make me use a stamina pip to cast the enchantment, but I know that Hellfire Priest isn't going to blight me, or Hellfire Demon, rather. Not too worried about getting blighted by the final boss. I don't even think he can do it. And then here's a perfect example of why, when you have a good build, you've already looted the whole dungeon, just get out. That enemy, now mind you, he was made easier to deal with because of my skeleton dismembering him, but those zombies that actually dodge attacks and they come with a weapon, one of the hardest enemies in the game and can single-handedly end your run. If you come across those guys, I honestly recommend just not fighting them. Ignore them, run away. If I didn't have the skeleton summoned, that guy could have very easily ended my run. And I had already opened up every chest in the stage. There really wasn't a reason to fight him. Now you will see me fast forward through this fight quite a few times because he does this attack for a very long time. And he likes to do it a lot. So yeah, just kind of play by his rules. This guy's melee attacks are a lot bigger range than the first bosses. The first bosses, if you walk up in a melee range, you can poke him a little bit, stagger him a little bit. This guy, if you melee him, he's just going to swing right back at you. And his attacks have huge range. Look how long his arms are. I recommend throw your spells in between his spells, his fireballs, if you will. You want to have multiple range options against him because this particular boss, when he gets a... Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Look at those attacks. Like, not only does he have huge range because his arms are super long, he also lunges towards you when he swings, right? But yeah, cast your spells in between him doing his moves. Play by his rules. And there you can see he cured himself. So I blighted him. He was taking continuous damage over time at a very slow rate because of my poison. But this particular boss happens to be able to cure himself of your statuses. And there you can see, first attack that he does, he's going to do a sweep in front of him. I recommend dodging away. The second attack, he's going to lunge forward in a straight line. I recommend dodging to the side for that one. Here he's going to start shooting out projectiles randomly. They can be really hard to see, but the most threatening part of this fight now is he's going to start dropping these, again, hard to see mines. It could be that I'm a little colorblind, but I personally struggle quite a lot to see these. Now, they don't explode immediately on contact. You can run up to them, detonate them, and then quickly dash out of the explosion. This is another reason why I really am not a fan of nerfing your vigor. The more vigor, the more movement that you have, the better. But if you don't dodge out of them, you see what happens. They explode on you, they inflict you with hellfire. It's pretty bad, especially because he spawns them endlessly. So this is the part of the fight, I actually fast forward it because I tried taking this a little too slow. I was like, alright, so I know that if I deal any more damage to him, I'm gonna get him into phase 3. I want to be full health for that, so I'm just gonna heal myself up and try not to take any extra damage. But the thing is, against this boss, the longer that it goes on, the more prone you are to making mistakes. Like, you can see those mines, they're not exactly standing still. They are moving slowly, but they are moving around the room, right? So the longer that you spend doing this, the more likely it is that you're going to make a really nasty mistake. Just pop your healing potion, respect the boss, play by his rules. If you get low in a boss fight, don't feel bad about using your healing potion. There I try to arrow him, and I end up taking a really nasty hit. And look what happened. I made one mistake. That one mistake made me lose a lot of health because I got ping-ponged around into multiple exploding mines. And at some point I'm just like, alright, screw it. I don't want to do this all night. I'm just going to pop my health potion and go in on him. Bam, we deal the last bit of damage to get him into phase 3. And in phase 3, he summons that giant flame that circles around the room. So he pretty much demands that you have to fight him in the arena. Now what's nice is that now that you're in the center of the arena, he's going to start doing these lightning lasers. I don't really understand why the Hellfire Demon is doing these lightning lasers. Don't get hit by that, obviously. But it is also nice that it's an opportunity for you to kind of get up behind him and deal some critical damage to him. So at some point, your melee build will actually do something in this fight, but it does take a while. Remember, respect his melee attacks. He'll still pelt you from range. But I pretty much recommend just waiting until he does this attack and then just going in on him. Keep in mind, you can die after the boss dies. He'll just burn you to death. It kind of sucks. Hopefully that's something that the dev will change. I really don't like the fact that after killing the stage boss, I can still die to like a dot effect, especially since almost all of them inflict some sort of dot effect on you. Yeah, I decided to pick up more health potions. I dropped my arrows. I'm going to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to charge up arrows against this next boss unless you have piercing, because at some point he's going to summon a billion freaking dudes, and the dudes have a tendency to block range attacks. I'm not going to fast forward to any of this fight. I just want you to witness what's going on in this fight. So the way this boss works is he's a spellcaster who has a giant demon bodyguard. Now the demon bodyguard is a melee unit. I wouldn't call her slow. Like, she looks slow here, but she does speed up at some point in the fight. And basically she just pursues you the entire time. When she gets close enough, she is going to lunge at you. She is going to start swinging her giant cleaver thing at you. And she does have some really, really, like, far-reaching attacks. So if she's remotely close to you, I recommend spacing. Don't ignore her is what I'm trying to say. But the only damage in this fight that matters is whatever you can put into the spellcaster. Because, to my knowledge, I don't actually think you can kill the demon. But this is why I personally don't think that melee builds are super great against this guy, because he's going to be casting all these different spells that pretty much punish you for playing the game as a melee unit. That's not to say that melee is bad, but when I spoke to the developer, the dev seems to think that melee is really good in this game. Like, really, really good in this game, if you just know how to play it. But, I mean, you tell me, does this look like a fight where being melee seems feasible? If you try to melee him, you're just going to get swarmed by all these other units that are spawning in the room. You're going to be stun locking yourself in close range animations. It's going to make it easier for this giant white demon thing to get on top of you, deal a bunch of damage to you. If she hits you really freaking hard, by the way. But you'll see, I'll get close to this guy, and he'll push me away with a magic spell, right? Which opens up the giant white demon to deal a bunch of damage to me. I get stun locked in a wall trap. She also has the ability to stun lock you, by the way. And that's not even the worst that he can do. He can straight up freeze you in place instantaneously if you walk up to him. Your shield isn't going to save you from that. Your shield, like, you'll block it and he'll just freeze you through the block, right? He can drop fires. If he decides to wind blast you after putting down a fire and he blasts you into the fire, that can be pretty bad. So, like, he's a mage with a bunch of get off of me options. If he's peeling himself, I mean, how do you feasibly get up in his face and melee him, right? There's probably a way, but my honest recommendation, circle him, wait for an opening. Sometimes the white demon will cleave through the ads, and the ads can actually drop healing for you. Keep an eye out for that. And you can see, she gets on top of me and she does a ton of damage to me. So I pop my health potion, I'm like, screw it, don't feel bad for using these. I want to point out, I didn't find any health potions in the run, I only found them in shops. And I happen to be playing the character that gets increased money gain. Like, how hard would this have been if I had no healing, right? Because I really didn't find any healing in the run. I had to buy everything. Another reason this fight can feel hard is because the camera is not amazing in this game, but the dev has gotten a lot of feedback about it, and he apparently plans on fixing it in the next update. So here, this is where you have to be a little careful, because the boss actually has the ability to also cure himself, similar to the Hellfire Demon. It's just a spell that he casts that cleanses a debuff. So what's happening right now, and why the fight slows down significantly here, is because he is putting magic shields around him that block instances of damage. So if I try throwing my... ooh, that was really bad. Ooh, really, really, really bad. Pop my potion, don't feel bad about using that, just pop it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so he'll put this magical ring around him that's going to block an instance of damage. What it also does is it negates spell effects. So If I try throwing my firebolt at him, it actually won't deal the damage over time. It's just going to remove the shield, right? There, he tried to freeze me. If he froze me there, I probably would have died. Again, another reason why, like, it's really hard to get melee into this guy. There are obviously openings where it becomes possible, but, like, huh. Look at him. He's wind blasting me around. He's trying to freeze me. If he hits you with charged, by the way, that's also a run ender. So definitely watch out if he places like one of those static mines in the room. You don't want to get charged. But if you're playing ranged, break his shield. After you break his shield with like a low priority projectile, like a basic arrow or something, then go in with your status effect, right? Because he will cure your status effect, but he'll usually at least take 1 or 2 ticks of damage from it before he cleanses it. So, and again, there I try to get in for a little bit of melee damage, and he just blasts me away. He's got a shield around him. If you melee into the shield, you dink off of him as if he was an armored target. So, again, it's pretty much instantly disengages you off of him. It's just really hard to melee this guy. Like, look at what's happening on screen right now and tell me if you think you can melee this guy. It's so hard, man. I finally get an opening to break his shield and then cast some blight on him. He is taking a little bit of poison damage. It's coming out really, really slowly, but something is better than nothing at this point. I think I still have one more healing potion, but I do believe I blow through literally all of them. I will say, this is the hardest Varix fight I've done. A lot of it stems from the fact that the priest is just slower than everybody else. Like, this fight in particular, you don't want to be slow. This fight in particular, you don't want to have a low amount of stamina. Right there. That right there is why you don't want to be slow for this fight. If I was playing any other character, I'm positive I would not have gotten hit there, but ironically, for being worse at running than all the other characters, the priest has to do more of it, which is why that debuff is really, really bad on him. There I got charged. You can see when you get charged, if you're not wearing conductive materials, usually it doesn't deal damage to you. But what it will do is it will ping pong you around like that. So in a fight like this where you have a giant melee unit that is trying to cleave you for 2 hearts of damage, you don't want to be stuck in place. So definitely don't try to get hit by that. If I step into that blizzard that he put on the ground there, I'll just get frozen. Again, it's kind of hard to run up to this guy and melee him. There I go for a melee attack, and he hits me with just a basic spell. Knocks me away, but we do get the last melee hit in. Finish him off. That kills everything else in the room, and that's pretty much the end of the run. Now, when the next biome is implemented into the game, it is worth running around the room and picking up all the money that you see, but for the moment, that is going to be the final boss of the run. All characters have been unlocked, so if you didn't have the priest and you were playing like the adventurer or the veteran, that would be one of the ways that you can get him. I don't recommend playing him solo. If you're playing with friends, sure, play the priest. If you're not, don't play the priest. He unlocks the pyromancer here, who starts off with a dagger, a sacrificial dagger. So what that means is that whenever you get a kill with the dagger, it's going to replenish a cooldown. So any spell that's on cooldown will come off of cooldown. He starts with extra vigor. He catches fire less easily, which is good because he does fire himself. And he comes with something called an Orb of Divination. Here I'm just showing off some of the spells that he can do. So that comes out of the staff. If you charge the spell, you can walk into it without taking fire damage. This Orb of Divination, so this is awesome. It's a light source that when you hold it up, it's going to give you the effects of anything that's magical around you, right? So there you can see that on the bonfire spell that I put on the ground, it says inflicts burning if you walk into it, right? Comes with the firebolt spell they were using before, and also that sort of fire blasts, or you just kind of flamethrower everything around you, or rather in front of you. That one's also quite good. But this is the negative effect, is that he comes with less health than everybody else. So one mistake with this guy definitely can get you killed. I wouldn't recommend playing him until you have at least a pretty basic understanding of what all the enemies in the game do. But he can definitely make a run feel pretty good, because he's the only character that starts off with pretty much an entire loadout, like an entire endgame loadout that you can take straight to the final boss right at the start. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to show off a quick Into Evil run for anybody that's been struggling, and yeah, that's pretty much it.